Welcome to War Room Impeachment. We're live on Capitol Hill. It is Friday, the 24th of January, the year of our Lord 2020. We're only yards where they are having the trial of the 45th President of the United States, only third time in the history of the American Republic. And we are also on the parade route today for the March for Life with that same president, the 45th President of the United States. Donald J. Trump became the first sitting president ever to address the March for Life, the hundreds of thousands that showed up today. Episode 132 of War Room Impeachment. We're here until the day after the exoneration / acquittal of President Trump. We're live on the John Frederick Radio Network on America's Voice.news, the Trump Movement's streaming service. Also Newsmax TV, now in 70 million homes, and Salem Radio throughout the nation. Honored to be joined in studio by by Jenny Beth Martin, co-founder of the Tea Party Patriots, chairman of the Tea Party Patriots, and always has her hand on the pulse of the grassroots, and really honored to be joined by, I would say, Jason and my two sidekicks, Jason and Raheem, from UKIP fame and Jason from the Trump campaign. We have at the War Room, we're very proud about our rapid response. We're very proud about the guys in the War Room, but I think really the rapid response department, the head of the department for rapid response is Congressman Andy Biggs in his Twitter feed, right? Congressman Biggs joins us. Congressman Biggs joins us he's a congressman from Arizona 5, and that would be Mesa and Gilbert. We're honored to have you on, Congressman. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for all the great work you're doing as the head of the Rapid Response Department for the Trump impeachment.
Good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
Congressman, I'll dive right into this. You've been so fantastic, as Steve said. Literally, I went back through some of the tweets today, and it's about they average out to be about every 13 to 18 minutes for basically the last couple of months, I guess. I don't think you sleep, but here's the thing. And if anyone's not currently following Congressman Biggs, it's at Rep. Andy Biggs AZ. And at Rep. Andy Biggs AZ. This is why you're such a must follow. You have tight, detailed facts. You have great video clips, and you're so absolutely present and contemporary to everything going on the Senate floor.
Could you please come in and train our team? It's amazing. Your staff, whoever is putting it together, Congressman, you're not, because a lot of Twitter feeds are just owning the libs. You're actually a real news site. I mean, you could follow Biggs and know what's going on.
So, Congressman, I want to dive right into this and get your thoughts. So the Democrats are wrapping up today, and somehow they've managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory as far as the media is concerned. They've been droning on. Thank you, Jerry Nadler, for making Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins mad. And thank you also, Adam Schiff, bringing this back to a foreign policy debate. Tell us, Congressman, where do you think we are, and how do you think this is going to ultimately wrap up in the eyes of the American public for where the Democrats are this week?
Yeah, great questions. I would say that in the end, of course, and you got it right, President Trump, in my mind, he's already been exonerated. They'll just do the official acquittal vote probably the end of next week. I am praying, quite frankly, that our team doesn't take anywhere near the full 24 hours and lay an egg the way the Democrats have, because the bottom line is you can only tell me the same thing probably 200 times before I
that even Andy Biggs will get it, right? He's at the 200th.
Exactly. I'm a little slow, but probably by that time I got it. And so that's where they are. They just it's a drone on, it's a repeat, and I love every time Jerry Nadler gets on, because he's an odious character who believes that he has got to make this personal in every way. And what that does is it presses the buttons of people who breathe the most rarefied air on the planet, and that's U.S. senators. And so by belittling them or condescending to them, he basically undermines everything he's saying, which takes a lot of work, because there's not much value in what he's saying or anyone else on that team.
Congressman Raheem Kassam here. I wrote an article, an op-ed for the Daily Caller today, sort of saying the opposite of what you're saying about the 24 hours, and here's why. And I want to get your thoughts on this. Maybe I'm wrong, but the reason that the Democrats are losing people's attentions, are boring people to death up there right now, is because they are saying the same things over and over again. not introducing anything new, actually veering off into proving some of our points over the course of their stuff. Could and should we not use the time? I mean, we've spent over about 150 hours on War Room Impeachment going through where this started in 2013, the Bidens, the Burisma links, all of this, everything that went on during the Clinton State Department, everything that went under Obama's purview, sending the blankets over there. We wouldn't be repetitious if we used all the time to lay out that whole thing, would we?
Well, you're right. We could move on and really cover a lot of ground, but I really think it's going to be tough to keep the average person's attention. So I think they should take tomorrow, lay out their case in one way, but then I think, and President Trump's right on this, nobody's going to really be watching on Saturday. And then when you come back on Monday, really hit the home run in about 8 hours, 10 hours, and then pull the plug, because then for two reasons. Because number one, I think we can eviscerate them in that amount of time. Number two, I think that the American public, who is trying to pay attention, is going to say, yeah, they eviscerated them, and they did it in 2/3 of the time or half the time. They don't need the whole to waste all of our time and make fools of themselves. As a guy who tried a lot of cases, I'll tell you one other thing. The more people talk, the more likely you're going to walk yourself into a cul-de-sac that you don't want to be in and make a mistake. And that's something.
You're saying when you win the argument, close the briefcase. Don't stick around and try to oversell.
Right.
Let me ask you, and guys jump in here, and Jenny Beth jump in. I'm going to bifurcate what we've seen over the last 3 days between style and presentation skill and content. How do you think, and if you were giving advice to the president and his team, to Pat Cipollone and Jay Sekulow and the great team that's putting it together, walk us through, deconstruct, you're a lawyer, deconstruct their style, how they present it.
Well, I think it's a great combination because it's tag team. First of all, both guys are very smart, very capable, and the other aspect of it is I find them to be far more eloquent than, say, Jerry Nadler or Ms. Garcia, for instance. I mean, Jerry's Jerry. So that's that bar's low. I get it, but they're both more eloquent. So what I would say is the passion that Jay Sekulow brings. He needs to keep that passion high without taking it over the edge, and then Pat needs to keep that stoic and yet interesting. He needs to be interesting with the facts, with the story that he tells. That would be such a contrast to the wide-eyed presentation of Adam Schiff and the meandering of Jerry Nadler that I think so many of us just found almost intolerable.
In their style points, in the presentation with the video and the charts and the graphs and the PowerPoints, you didn't think that worked.
No, I think that works. But when you see the same ones over and over again, and if we're going to do that, I think we need to lay it out there and make it contextual, because they pulled everything out of context. Some of the ones they were doing today just totally out of context, and that works because we're in a very multi-visual, multimedia visual approach in America today, and so that works. But I think you have to tell the story, and you have to have the passion that Sekulow, Jay brought. So you have that passion, and you have the stories from Pat Cipollone.
Jenny Beth, were you going to jump in?
Well, Congressman Biggs, it's so good to be on with you tonight. I think that they spent the last 3.5 weeks, the reason that there was a delay in sending the articles over to the Senate, it's apparent to me they did that so they could write their scripts, write their reports, and practice, rehearse. And what we are seeing right now from the Democrats is something, certainly in the first couple of days, it's very well practiced and rehearsed. And they're telling a story, and they're telling it to the senators in the room, but they also are trying to get anyone in America who flips on the TV at some point during this week, during the 24 hours they've been allotted, to make sure that they hear the story. And they keep repeating it because they're not trying to repeat it to the senators. They're trying to repeat it to anyone who might be happening to turn on the TV.
at that time.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right, Jenny Beth. And so, Congressman, here's what I want to get from you on kind of your takeaway on this. And this is kind of following up to what Jenny Beth was saying. So if this had magically ended as far as the Democrats' opening arguments after yesterday, for example, I think three things would have really stood out. What we know so far, 3 days to remember, and if this isn't impeachable, nothing is. That really was kind of the basis of where they were going. Today, it really seems like they've walked off a cliff today. Now they're down to the Russia thing. They're in Ukraine. Like they've basically they've completely jumbled their own message. And I'd say through yesterday, from our side, it was really these guys are lying. These guys, where would you put, if you're the media, if you're putting together Stephanopoulos' Sunday show, if you're putting together Jake Tapper's Sunday show, what do you think that their main takeaway from the Democrats' opening is going to be?
Well, I think what they're going to say is, I mean, it's kind of what they said the other day about Adam Schiff, about how brilliant he is. And they're going to focus, quite frankly, I think, on the format. They loved the visual aids. They loved Adam Schiff. They think he's a brilliant guy. They're not going to focus so much on the evidentiary argument or presentation, and they're not going to focus so much, in my opinion, on basically the constitutional issue, because there's nothing there. They're going to say, yeah, the Senate has screwed us on process, but Adam Schiff has been marvelous, and they're going to be continually at that high level because everybody gets lost on the lower level, and there's nothing there on the lower level, which is what the foundational testimony that constructs the elements of a crime, and it's just not there.
So one thing we've been talking about. You go in and tear apart the merits of their case, and then come back to the constitutional stuff later. You go right at them and you say, "Hey, you guys came in here. This is what you said you had. You said you had overwhelming evidence." That's the whole mantra, overwhelming evidence. Well, let's take that evidence, let's take it brick by brick, and you blow up every brick. You just sit there and go, at the end of it, you have absolutely nothing. You're saying, as a lawyer, you want to go in and attack the merits of their case.
Yeah, I would. If I was trying to, the first thing I would do, just so you know, is I would present this, and you guys may disagree with me, but this is just the fun part of having this discussion. I would present the basic attack of their evidence to show that it's not. I mean, they took everything out of context. They
put Schiff on trial.
Yeah, I would put Schiff. That's exactly where I'd be going. I'd be putting Schiff on trial and saying he said this. It isn't there. And when I was done, after a little bit of doing that, enough to do it so everybody knows exactly what's happening, then I'd make a motion to dismiss.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Just like I would in a regular trial, because I think you would have eviscerated the evidentiary basis for their case. And if you've done that by putting Adam Schiff on trial and showing that he's always done, I think you have a chance to get the votes to stop it, because if it goes on, then you get to go on and basically further eviscerate the legal status of their case, and then also start expanding, as you were talking about, expanding a little bit onto some of the other issues that are effectively tangential to this case, but in some ways that are the heart of what the American people want to know, which is what the heck's the deal with Hunter Biden instead, basically trying to extort dismissal for $1 billion U.S. taxpayer dollars. I mean, that's really tangential, but you can make it part. But I wouldn't do that if I didn't have to. I want to get a dismissal.
So you'd go through 4, 5, 6 hours of taking all their evidence, eviscerating in front of everybody, and then you would ask for essentially a summary judgment or a vote. You would ask for a vote right, call a vote right then to dismiss before you went any farther.
And can his attorneys do that, or does the dismissal motion have to come from a senator?
That's a great question.
I believe, based on the resolution, I think that they can make that motion themselves. We'll wait and see. Yeah, but that's the way I read it, and I could be reading it wrong. I could have pulled it out of Schiff and pulled it out of context simply because I hope that's the way. But it seems to me that they can make that motion, and if they can't make the motion, trust me, there are some sympathetic lawyers on the Senate side who are senators who could make. I think of Ted Cruz. I think of Lindsey Graham. I think there's some very capable men and women there that can make that.
Hey, Bernie Sanders wants to get back out to Iowa. You might have a couple of 3 Democrats throwing with you. Say, get me the hell out of here.
He wants to get on that private plane and start moving.
Is anything you've seen, Congressman Biggs? Our guest is Congressman Andy Biggs from Arizona 5 out there in Mesa and Gilbert. Is there anything that you've seen that you believe that they will have the votes, or they've driven this enough that they will actually get a vote for any additional witnesses?
No, I am convinced more today than I was 2 days ago that they might still get 3 votes. I thought always they'd get 3 votes. They might yet get 3 votes, but I think the way they've handled the Senate has been absolutely so condescending, and the way they've handled the evidence has been so unpersuasive. If you're sitting there, I mean, if you're just tuning in now, then you might be persuaded that Adam Schiff's a great lawyer. But the reality is, I don't think they've persuaded enough people that they can get witnesses. Don't forget, they argued that the evidence is already overwhelming, so they basically undercut their desire for more witnesses.
So tomorrow, what do you want to see, Congressman? We know they're only going to have the 3 hours, I believe, 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. Then they're going to break. We're going to have the Sunday shows. We're going to come back up next week. When we talk about the narrative setting, we talk about the stage setting for then going into the 2 days. What do you want to see them do?
I would hedge a little bit on the Adam Schiff evisceration until you can present it in one big enchilada on Monday. But I would go through and I would talk about the overwhelming lack of evidence. I talk about applying that evidence, the law to that evidence, and I would really hit hard on the constitutional issue, the allegation even of bribery. There's no allegation of treason or any other criminal conduct on the part of the president. And really force them to explain. I want them to have to explain on the Sunday shows why they don't have evidence, why they failed to get the evidence in the House, why they rushed to this judgment. That's what I would be hitting on, I think, tomorrow for 3 hours, since it's a truncated hearing, and then make them try to explain and defend that stuff on Sunday, so then I can come in fresh and just beat the crap out of Adam Schiff on Monday.
I think that when they do that, and I'm certain that they'll do something along the lines of what you're describing. Not that I have any inside information, it just makes logical sense what you're saying. I think that the Trump supporters who are listening right now and paying attention to this, it might be a little bit anxious because of the last 3 days. Once his defense team is finally able to defend him and take down the lies and the misrepresentations and say, look, when this person said this, like Sondland, he came back and said absolutely no quid pro quo. We haven't had any of that yet. And I think it's going to help calm people around the country and go, okay, they really don't have a case. So I just urge people who are listening right now to remember, tune in tomorrow and pay attention to the takedown and the defense of the president.
I think it's great. Congressman, we got a couple of minutes before we let you go. In the state, Arizona is now a state that may be in play in 2020, right? And you've got an important Senate race that's coming up there. Obviously, all the House races. How do you think, outside of your district, how do you think, in particularly in the Phoenix area where a lot of these elections out there are decided, how do you think this is playing to the American people? How do you think the folks in Arizona are absorbing this, and where do you think they stand today?
I think that in Arizona, if you're in the Phoenix metro area, by the way, every congressional district has a part of the Maricopa County or Phoenix metro area because it has 5 million people in it, in a state with 7 million people. So everybody out here, the further out, away from the center of Phoenix you go, the more defensive of Trump they become. And so Phoenix is our L.A., San Francisco, New York. And the further away we go to it, then we become like the other places. The good news for Arizona is, even though you have most of the people living in the metro area, most of the people are still reasonably minded. They get it, and I think they're like everybody else, where the majority of the country now, the poll I saw today said they don't want the president to be removed. He still has 47% approval rating, and Arizona's going to be right about the same way.
Where do you think the president ought to be focused? You know, he's doing a bunch of activities next week. They're talking about even maybe BB comes in, etc. If you had the presidency here this weekend, what would you tell him to be focused on as we start to wind up this what is called the trial of the century?
I think in my state, immigration. He needs to keep hammering the immigration points that he's made. The move down from 150,000 apprehensions last May to last month of 40,000. The Mexican help, the Northern Triangle states helping. I think that's number one. Number two, I think he needs to keep talking about the federal judiciary, which is a critical thing. I'm in the 9th district, our 9th circuit, for Pete's sakes, and everybody here wants to get out of the 9th circuit. So I think he needs to keep talking about what we've done there and hammering those things that he has made tremendous progress on, the trade deals, and continue talking about trade. And those three things right there, if he keeps talking about those things and hammering those important points in my state, that will keep people directed and focused on the areas that they should be focused on.
Last question. You know, President calls it the crime of the century, the coup against him. What venue, how would you, since it's not going to happen clearly in this trial, if you had to make a recommendation to him of how we pursue that, because that still has not been brought, to a head, what would you recommend? Just forget it and move on, or what would you recommend the president do?
I don't think you can forget it, move on, because what they've done is created a lasting damage to our institution of Congress, and even the separation of powers has been basically emasculated by this thing, the notion of that. So I would say what he should do is we've got to get him reelected, number one. We've got to get Republicans to take over the House, and if we do that, we're going to be in a position to provide some what I would call retributive measures against some of our colleagues on the other side.
Retributive. Okay. Well, we'll have you on again to go down. We want to drill down on that when we have more time. That sounds pure Congressman Biggs. I mean,
he's fired up.
He's fired up. Sir, whatever you do, please, please, please keep that Twitter feed going, because everybody, all the Trump Nation depends upon it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congressman Andy Biggs, Arizona 5, Mesa and Chandler. Jenny Beth Martin's in the house. Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller. Raheem, you go to warroom.org to get all the latest updates in the live blog?
Live blog's still going. All of the impeachment proceedings on there. www.warroom.org. Sign up, subscribe, and leave us a review.
We're going to be back in a moment with a big announcement.
War Room. Impeachment. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Impeachment, Friday, the 24th of January. Where did this month go? The 24th of January. It seemed like we just got back here from New Year's.
Thank goodness. It's the end of dry January beckons.
That is Raheem Kassam, Morton's table number 3. One of them. Year of our Lord 2020. It's the March for Life. It comes right by the famous Breitbart embassy. In fact, they put the shield up every year that tells you how endangered the Right to Life marches are. And it's never really gotten the press coverage it deserves. It is a massive march. And for the first time in the history of the march, a sitting president went and addressed today, Donald J. Trump.
And just on that note, I was watching the television coverage as the president was speaking at the March for Life. CNN did not cut to it once.
Not the crowd.
Not even.
Yeah.
No, not even the speech.
Oh, you mean they
Not
never?
even the president's speech. What they had
Whoa.
was Jeffrey Toobin opining about what Adam Schiff had just said. Right. So it's not the cable news network. It's the cable opinion network, which is also con. By the way.
You mean they had come off of the actual floor, so they had time to go to the president if they wanted to?
They just had literally a panel of Toobin and all these others while the president was making history. They didn't go to it.
Unbelievable. We got a big announcement tomorrow at 10, right after War Room Impeachment. We're going to have a special War Room Pandemic. We're going to talk about the second biggest story, maybe overcoming the first. I think it really shows you even the historical nature of what's going on. And one of the reasons we wanted to show it the respect, to show the historical nature of this, and to make sure the president's story got out. It pales in comparison, though, when you look at particularly the last couple of days and over in the repetition, although I give them credit for their their presentation skills. Jenny Beth says it's because Adam Schiff's from L.A., and that's the way L.A. people roll.
You've been in LA.
Hollywood.
You know what they're like. It's Hollywood.
They're always presenting. But then you see what's really important. This pandemic, this virus that's coming out of China is now spread throughout the world. We're going to have some experts on tomorrow. We're going to take an hour and do the typical war room, deconstruct it, and maybe potentially have a couple more shows after that. But we want to really focus on what's going on. War Room Pandemic, a special edition of the War Room, will be on at 10 a.m. tomorrow, right after War Room Impeachment. And Mark Meadows will be here for the impeachment part, right before the start of the 3-hour introduction of President Trump's defense.
And if you're worried about the quality of War Room Pandemic, let me tell you, we've put as much thought and planning into this as we did the very first episode of War Room Impeachment, which is all of about 4 hours.
4 hours with baling wire. Well, War Room Impeachment turned out okay. So I got, it's just you got to get the intention. Before we go into other business, I want to go back to Andy Biggs, a very special guy. And here's one of the reasons he's a special guy. You see in this kind of populist, nationalist, traditionalist, conservative, whatever you want to call it throughout the world, whether it's Salvini in Italy, whether it's Modi in India, whether it's Bolsonaro in Brazil, whether it's Nigel Farage and Raheem Kassam. I met Raheem because he's running one of the top blog sites at the time, years ago, back in 2011, 2012. The right, because we're always capital constrained, and we don't, according to Gramsci, we don't own the high ground of the universities or the modern, the mainstream media. You've got to be entrepreneurial. You've got to be quick on your feet. You have to, in social media, whether Facebook Live for Bolsonaro and Salvini, Twitter for President Trump. It is social media, Twitter, and a website for Andrew Breitbart. Raheem Kassam and the site that you had, what was it, Guido? What's the other great site that was over there at the time?
Yeah, the Guido Fawkes.
The Guido Fawkes guys. You always saw these things springing up. Andrews was a little blog site and became Breitbart News. But Andy Biggs is doing something that's very sophisticated. It's almost like your own news service if you're interested in the impeachment.
And I want to put that in contrast to look, not to pick on anyone in particular, but I mean,
but we will.
But we will. So Elise Stefanik, one of the 8 House members that was picked by the White House to be out there advocating and defending the president, 26 minutes ago posted on Twitter, beautiful twilight ferry ride from Vermont to New York 21, some pictures of the very majestic landscape. Okay, this brother Andy Biggs, I don't think this guy has left his TV and his Twitter feed. No. He is so dialed into everything. No. He has been, like I said, literally every 13 to 18 minutes, he has a tight video thing. Yep. He's going through the details, and you can tell that it's him because when we heard him talk, I mean, in the way that he laid out in such a nice, tight, succinct format, said, tell the story, got to tell our narrative, explain it, go through and point by point eviscerate all of their lies, hammer it, and then put Schiff on trial. Yep. And he did it in such a smart, constructive way. But when I see these House guys, when I see literally Meadows and Jordan being like, get out of my way, Schumer, get out of my way, Mark Warner, we're going to get in front of the cameras, we're going to fight for President Trump.
Stefanik did a fantastic job during the hearings, and she's obviously a rising star. The difference is that Biggs is obsessed with this. Yes. This is the center of gravity of his existence as a representative of Arizona 5 is to get into this.
And and I got and just one quick thing for hand to you, Jenny Beth. And here's why I got to give Congressman Biggs credit on this. He wasn't picked as one of the 8 folks on this team, but he said, you know what? I'm going to go out and defend Donald Trump because I have something to add to this. Yep. I don't need to have some formal fancy title. Yep. I'm getting out there, and I will tell you, out of every member in the House, and actually I can't say every because we have Mark Meadows on tomorrow morning. I have to tell him he's the best also. But
we told him not to get him on anyway.
Right. But literally, you couldn't point to another person and say they are doing a better job on their Twitter game and rap responding than Andy Biggs.
And I want Jenny Beth to get in here and talk about the grassroots and the deplorables out there. But here's the point, and this is about Meadows and Biggs. Meadows and Jordan are not afraid. And look, Fox does an amazing job. You got the opinion shows tonight, you got the news, and people are on there from Fox and Friends. You got Fox Business, which is fantastic. Trish Reagan, Lou Dobbs, all the shows over there. But you've got to get into the lion's den. You got to do CNN, and you were one of the contributors. Steve Cortez, one of our partners, was a contributor. You guys go in and just get beat up. I mean, it's going into – you go on Cuomo. I'm telling you, because Cuomo is a tough guy, right? You go to Cuomo, you go to AC360. They're bringing heat nonstop, heat-seeking missiles. You go on MSNBC, Ari Melber. You go on, Brian Williams or the O'Donnell at night. those are shows you're gonna get beat up. You're going hardball, but you got to go on there. That's why you see and then Biggs does this continual news service for the Republicans to win more, to take the House, not just to take the House over, but when you have the House, actually do something with it. It has to be that level of engagement. It has to be. I mean, you look, the Tea Party revolt in 2010. We won those 62 seats. You've been at this a long time, but it's guys like Biggs and Meadows that understand if you're going to come up here, you're not here to make friends, right? Andy Biggs is not making friends by that Twitter feed, right? He's just grinding it, and he's not getting any kudos. He's just grinding it out.
Well, he's educating people as he does it, and no, he may not be getting kudos right now, but I think he's a leader. He was a leader in Arizona before he came here. He was a leader in their legislature. He was a leader during the House portion
Big time.
with the things that he was doing outside of the committees to help with this, and it doesn't matter whether he has a title or not. He's stepping up to take the
Do
lead.
the deplorables, in 18, everybody said, well, Trump's not at the top of the ballot. I ran around with the film and did all these things and said, hey, it's a referendum on him, and as soon as they take the House, they're going to impeach him. That's all they're winning this thing for. And everybody was leaning on Rex and said, well, he's not at the top of the ballot. The deplorables are not that motivated. They just come out. Do you think today, having gone through this and wasted these 2 years and just they just grinded him, do you think now people understand, hey, yes, we got to win the presidency, but you got to hold the presidency. And the way you hold the presidency, you must hold the House of Representatives. Is there going to be that kind of focus this year that, hey, to really have the president's back and to get stuff done, you've got to control the Appropriations Committee, and you've got to control the House investigative apparatus.
Yeah, I think that there absolutely will be. I have people who are asking, how can we help? How can we get the House back? How can we make sure that Speaker Pelosi is not Speaker again? And
look, and you look back in history at the Tea Party revolt of 2010, and with really no money to win, 62 seats? It was incredible. And I remember seeing you the first couple of times you did these rallies over there to win that. But did people get depressed because even in doing that, you had Boehner as Speaker, you had Ryan as Speaker, you didn't really get the Mark Meadows and the Tea Party firebrands, the Michelle Bachmans, the Louis Gohmerts, right? The people that were really leading that. Is that why in something like 2018, we could actually kind of lose focus and forget how important the House was, having gone through the Obama years when we didn't have it and paid for it with Obamacare?
Well, I think there are a couple of things that were going on from 2017 to 19, so during the 2018 election. Part of it is that people thought, okay, we won everything. Now President Trump can go fight for us and we can go back to living our lives. And, it's exhausting fighting. It is exhausting fighting, but you cannot take things for granted. In politics, in Washington, in a country where you have elections every 2 years, things are constantly changing and constantly moving, and it is exhausting, and you just have to keep up with it.
Do you think it's changed, Jason, as the professional here, do you think it's changed now that these off-year elections are like the presidency's now cut into 2-year cycles, and that they're almost like mini presidential elections? Because if you lose the House, you see and this opens it up. I don't think it's quite as radical that now people are going to be impeached all the time. I do think there's going to be some government, but you'd see the opportunity.
Well, it won't
when
be
you have
because the
House.
Republicans may not fight as hard as the Democrats
What's
did.
that?
So, given past
very true
performance.
point.
Listen, besides, a couple of guys every now and saying it, you never saw any movement to impeach Obama. You never did. And
No,
they say
we
today on
didn't.
Rachel Maddow, these guys, you never, I was around. You saw some guys in the comment section of Breitbart are calling it, we ought to impeach him, but there was never any serious
It's
movement.
because we love the system too much and we respect it too much to abuse it and to harm it. And I think it's a difference in the way that we approach the
Do
Constitution.
you think that this process has gotten in this city and people now to engage with the grassroots to understand that even in a Trump reelect, you got to get the House, if you really want to implement his program, the wall, what he's trying to do in America First, the things about obviously the spending, all the things we want to do, the judges, the Senate's kind of the personnel department, but everything else, that if he has Nancy Pelosi in his grill come January 2021, it's another couple of years of grind it out.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, too, is I think you're going to see a much more focused President Trump when we talk specifically about Capitol Hill items when he comes back and has a House and a Senate. I think that he was entirely too trusting. I mean, look how we went down the rabbit hole on Obamacare, and we didn't get it done. And we talk about opportunity cost. We basically blew 6 months. I mean, let's just be totally on the level on that.
I think that's why we don't have the House right now.
Yeah, I mean, like I remember on CNN once I said, the minute that President Trump won that election, Paul Ryan should have been waiting there like in a cake where he jumped out and said, here's your Obamacare repeal and replace bill. But instead we found out like, we haven't even started,
Right.
doodling it down on paper.
After 7 years of passing 40 of them, you realize that they realized Obama would never approve it, so it
none
was
of them
nothing.
work. But here, I think if President Trump wins re-election, which I firmly believe that he will, we're going to get the House back.
Well, let's talk about this for a second. Do you think, give me your assessment, and Raheem, jump in here, and Jenny Beth, for what do you think the people think? Given the last 3 days, and particularly the hosannas they've gotten from the mainstream media, because, Rachel Maddow teared up the other night. O'Donnell teared up the other night about Adam Schiff and how great this was.
Adam Schiff teared up about himself last night.
Adam Schiff did tear up about himself.
As he was making his way to
before I
Mike.
went to bed to do the China broadcast, he's tearing up. Where do you think we really stand? Where do you think the American people are coming out on this now?
I think the American people are we're very divided politically, but I still think that we have the edge, and that's simply because I think that what they have done is they've awoken a sleeping giant, and this goes a lot to the work that Jenny Beth is doing with the grassroots and the intensity cranking back up. Look, we were at a 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 intensity going into the 2018. The reason why they call people Trump voters, because they like Donald Trump. They don't like a lot of the typical Republican types. And I mean, this was the Jenny Beth in the battles that we've had going back to some of the Tea Party fights. People came out, and a lot of those folks came out for the Tea Party effort. They disappeared for a few years.
Big time.
Few years. They didn't come out for Romney. They didn't come out and
Not there.
They just weren't there. But then they came out for Donald Trump, and we got them re-engaged. I think they've now made our voters have a max intensity. I think they're right there intensity-wise with the Democrats. That's what ultimately has changed here. Is they've reawakened the sleeping giant.
Go ahead, Jenny Beth.
No, you go ahead.
I believe today is the day that Adam Schiff lost the room. I think he lost.
He jumped the shark.
I think he overshot the target, and you will see, therefore, an overcompensation by the Democrats now as well in the next couple of days to try and make up for that. There will be something in the way of a stunt. There'll be something in the way of more of these calls that this is a rigged process and they shouldn't have been a part of it anyway, and they should have known the Senate was going to do this. That's what we'll see over the next probably 48, 72 hours. We'll also see a massive downtick in the number of people who are watching today. We went from 11 million to 8.9 million.
You could almost hear him click off, right? Because
I can hear it.
It got too boring, too repetitious.
Even for those of us who live and breathe and drink and sleep this, after a while, we've heard it all.
I resorted to making memes today.
What about, we saw that. What about this recording that ABC has been teasing out?
But that's the kind of stuff they're going to start doing.
The recording.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is it. Are there more record? And Lev Parnas is saying, "Oh my, Igor did it. This was Igor's recording, right?" There's got to be a couple, 3 more of those out there, right? That Parnas has got up his sleeve.
Well, let's describe this recording that allegedly shows.
You're not buying ABC News, right?
Well, no, I'm just saying we haven't heard it, right? And
we have to take their word for it.
Well, and I'm just sick
you wouldn't
of taking the media's
You wouldn't
word
take
for
George
things.
Stephanopoulos' word.
Well, the guy who was saying yank it earlier on when Jay Sekulow was on television and he didn't want to take the feed anymore.
I thought it was fixed once they got rid of Brian Ross.
And we caught all of that. They're now saying, ABC's now saying that there's this audio recording that appears to be President Trump's voice
from a dinner. At Trump Hotel,
saying about
in April of 2019.
Why don't you do this?
No, I'm filling in. I'm being your straight man.
Of President Trump speaking about the Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch, saying, "Get rid of her, get her out tomorrow, take her out. Okay, do it." This is
supposedly after the voice of Lev Parnas, which has been identified, says your problem, Mr. President, is that your ambassador's over there saying, "Don't worry, he's going to get impeached. He's going to get impeached." And then you hear President Trump come in and say, basically, get rid of her.
That's correct. So that's the setup. That's what we're being told is the big problem here. I just don't see what the problem is.
Wait, who decides who gets to be ambassadors?
Bingo.
Who's allowed? And by the way, how many times have we heard over the last 3 days the official American foreign policy? Who sets the foreign policy?
I think the
and who was
commander-in-chief.
Oh, wait, and who
Adam Schiff.
Okay, let me play Chris Cuomo
Okay,
here in the
okay.
room. Okay, the point isn't that he got rid of her. The
pretty
point
good
is he said that he didn't know who this Lev Parnas character was. That shows that the president's lying. How do you handle that, Jason?
I look at him and say, Chris, you have put up. I don't know how we made this about Chris now, but we just like Chris. There's nothing there. You sent him 2 completely empty articles, and you know you've lost it so bad that your own folks aren't even talking about the articles.
Also,
anymore.
dozens
They're
of
talking
dinners.
about
I mean, it could be
That's
so
the
many people at
point,
dinners.
isn't
So
it?
many
That's
people.
the point.
Dozens
You
of
run it.
dinners.
The
Dozens of dinners.
president has said, I mean, Steve, I guess he probably knows you and Jason, Jenny Beth. I don't know how many conversations you've had with him, but I've had a couple, and I bet you he couldn't pick me out of a lineup.
police lineup.
You know,
I'm not so sure he can put me out of the police lineup because he sees so many people. It's
Yeah.
thousands. This is the problem with the fundraising. You got these guys coming in, all those pictures, and you know how much he loves doing those pictures, right? The handshakes. It's all the time. So this is just another thing. But this is the type of thing they're going to be dropping every day.
Yeah, so
I told you there'd be a surprise today. Remember this one?
You were good. You were good.
Jennifer, you were starting to say something.
Oh, I just was saying.
Jay, but you got to be a lot more aggressive in this room.
You're right, I'm just
Normally,
gonna get in there.
yeah,
What I'm trying to say is that I run into a lot of people in the job that I do. I've met people all over the country. I can't tell you every single person I've ever talked to, and I might go, "Oh yeah,
Are more of these
By
tapes?
the way,
yeah.
you know you've made it on the show when Steve starts cutting you off mid sentence.
Yeah, no.
Now you're officially
Now
part
the,
of
the
your
Twitter feed.
co-host.
The Twitter feed lights me up every day. Let them speak. Actually, the way they say this because they say let Raheem and Jason speak. Right? They always get to. Is this a sign of desperation? Should the Trump supporters think it's a sign of desperation when they're starting to drop these kind of videos that shows that their arguments didn't work? They need everything. They need to throw in everything.
It's Kavanaugh all over again. Molly Hemingway predicted that this is what was going to happen. It's going to be the same Kavanaugh playbook. I'm not surprised. You're not surprised. This is
Kavanaugh
what we're-
without the ratings.
But here's the one thing. You know what? I think that when they come out tomorrow and they start defending the president, that they're going to take down these arguments.
Okay, but what are you looking for tomorrow? For you to be happy at 1:00 when you get back on the plane? What has to happen from 10 to 1 that Pat and Brother Sekulow have to show you?
Well, they just need to show that the president did nothing wrong. Go through and explain how he did nothing wrong, how all of these things are hearsay and presumption and assumptions of what he wanted. It's people reading his mind. And I would also bring in the things that Ron Johnson has said, because he had firsthand knowledge speaking to President Trump. Those are the kind of things that I would do. I'd make sure that they show Sondland saying there was no quid pro quo. And
so it's like tomorrow you want it to be like an overture to an opera. You have the themes in there, and over the next couple of days you're going to develop those themes. But you have all the themes in the overture that you see it. And then are they making a mistake not bringing Dershowitz in before the Sunday shows? I'll start with Jason Miller, then go Raheem. Should you have Dershowitz to bring in the Constitution, do the overture, do the constitutional beatdown, and then have the Sunday shows? Or President Trump obviously wants to wait to the higher ratings on Monday?
I think they need to come out and do some howitzer tomorrow, do the overview, set the stage. But they need, and here's why I think it's smart to come out with the Biden stuff for tomorrow. They need some red meat to go out there and throw a refrigerator on the train tracks for Sunday, because what they're gonna do is
That's
they're
what
gonna
Jason. That's what Trump loves. Jason, he's a killer.
Right.
He's gonna
Well, no.
let's get to Biden.
Think about it. They're gonna go out there and say Adam
Constitution.
Schiff,
Let's go right to Biden.
Adam Schiff's doing a full hour, I think, on
Yeah.
Meet the Press.
Yeah.
They cleared the decks. Like, we won't even take advertising. We just want to throw rose petals at your feet and say how beautiful you are.
I bet there won't be any people in the background laughing at him, any of their staff, like
Right.
they did to Ted Cruz.
And so what we need is a little bit of talking purely to process and how you go and manipulate the news cycle and turn it back on them. We just need go and throw some punches tomorrow. We need some punches. We need some red meat. The real pushback is going to start Monday. Tomorrow needs to be a made-for-TV thing where we lay out a bit of the narrative and just start throwing some punches and, see if we can't...
Say, hey, Joe, here it comes.
Yeah, start landing a couple on their chin. Get Joe Biden freaking out. He's going to be spinning around. Where's Hunter? It's going to be...
Hunter. Nobody told me Hunter was doing anything wrong. Remember the thing he's saying now? Nobody ever mentioned it to me. He didn't do anything wrong.
Oh, I would play that clip where the guy says that, I went and told them, I told the vice president's office while Biden was vice president that this was an issue.
I would read out from the interview that Joe Biden gave with the New York Times very recently.
Yes,
Where he
the editorial
starts by
board.
saying he did nothing wrong and then said, look, he admits he
Right.
made a mistake. Hello. That's all the evidence you need right there. A mistake.
That's not a conspiracy theory. It's out of Biden's own mouth.
Quite right.
And I'd even throw out some stuff that's not even germane. I mean, again, this is just me, but Joe Biden was freaking out on that reporter in the hallway, and he grabs him and starts shaking him. Just showing how like Biden's crazy.
Why?
Yeah, that thing. But don't say it's a stutter, otherwise we'll get the PC crowd all jumping on you. But no, just throw some punches. Let's go and just start calling out. I would take, here's a clip of Schiff saying one thing, and then here's Vindman saying or Sunland saying something completely opposite. Just start going out, throw some punches, have some fun, give our people some things to run with, come back and do the real work Monday.
And I think that the senators, before they leave and have a break from all this, they need to hear that. Because they didn't watch all the hearings the way that we were over on the House side. So they need to understand that the evidence doesn't hold up.
Okay, tomorrow we're talking about hitters. We got tomorrow morning 9 a.m. to summarize today and to give a pregame. It will be Mark Meadows will be here, one of the firebrands from the House. We want to thank Jenny Beth Martin, Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller. Also at 10, right after War Room Impeachment, there'll be a special War Room Pandemic about this global threat that's coming out of China. We'll see you tomorrow morning with Mark Meadows, 9 a.m. on War Room Impeachment.